become their professional coach directory. Today I'm speaking with Russ Katzman. Thank you so much for joining me today, Russ.
Hi, Shauna. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm wondering if you can start by describing your ideal client.
When I look at my ideal client, biggest thing for me, Shauna, is somebody who's passionate about what they're doing. Typically, it's a business client, an executive, or a new business owner, sometimes an entrepreneur, somebody who's just excited about what the future holds for them. Typically, they're coming with either one or two issues that kind of come to mind, maybe a pain point with a team or something where they can't get the profit they want out of the business, the numbers aren't working out. Those are the kind of things I can help them out with. It's really all about helping that entrepreneur or that business owner get to a place where they can see it in the future that they just aren't sure how to get there themselves.
That's fantastic. And how do you like to help your clients succeed? Do you use a certain process?
I do. So typically what I do is I start with a complimentary coaching session. Usually runs 45 to 60 minutes, but that's really about the relationship. The biggest thing about having a coach is that you've got to be comfortable with that individual. You've got to believe in that individual. You have to have some credibility in their background and who they are. But for me as a coach, it's got to be the same thing. I've got to have somebody that I'm talking to that I feel as if I can add value to what they're trying to achieve. And so that 45 to 60 minutes gives us a good time to sit down, to talk through it, to kind of figure out whether our goals mesh and come together. It's one of those things where by the end of the call, you move forward or you don't. And it's nice to have that checkpoint with both of you on the call to do so. After that, we set up our first discussion. Typically, it's a strategy discussion, usually an hour, maybe sometimes 2 hours, depending upon the size of the organization. And in that strategy discussion, we kind of set the goals and the objectives and what we're trying to achieve long term. I will tell you that the process that I like to go usually handles about 3 months worth. And I do that because it usually takes a little bit of time to watch how things gel and watch how they improve the business and finally bring value back to that individual.
That's great. So I know you've got some great reviews on your website. I'm wondering if you can share any more feedback that you've received from some of your past clients.
Biggest thing that I get from my clients is that I provide a perspective and an accountability that they don't have themselves. And as you can look at my background, the one thing you'll find about what I bring to the table is that I've worked with all different parts of the business. I've worked with a number of different industries. I worked with, everything from a $200 billion industry powerhouse down to a mom and pop shop or some pre-revenue entrepreneurs. And what they all kind of have in common is that they kind of get this limited sight based on what their business is. And what I bring to the table is that outside influence, that outside perspective from either their customers, sometimes their vendors, sometimes other parts of the organization that they may not be seeing themselves, that I can kind of be that voice of reason and accountability to hold them to the fire to make some change.
That's great. So I'm curious, Russ, what is your background and how did you get into coaching?
Probably 20, 25 years worth of aging myself in this discussion. My original education was on the accounting side. I love numbers. I love playing with numbers. So I started in business on the accounting side. But the thing you'll find with accounting, and there's some authors that have talked about the difference between tactical minds and strategic minds. I've got very much a strategic mind. And so while I loved playing in the numbers, I found that the numbers were only kind of a confirmation to this story. And I found that I love to talk about the story. Where's the business going? What's our purpose? What's the vision? How are we going to get there? That kind of stuff. And so in the process of doing that, I wanted to talk to more parts of the business. So I moved from accounting into IT and found out that the two of them didn't talk the same language and I could be an interpreter for that. And there was a niche to being able to talk to any part of the business and to be in the room and sit across the conference table from any part of the business and understand what are their pain points and what's driving them, what's their incentive to perform or not to perform and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so in the process of doing that over the course of the next several years, project management, change management, Six Sigma black belt, people have joked with me that I've got more letters behind my name than I have in it. But honestly, Shauna, for me, that's all about just building a toolbox. And there's a book that I wrote called Chameleon Leadership. And that's what it's really about. It's all about what's that variety of things that I need to know that when I'm running a business, I can morph myself or turn my attention to those different parts of the business and know enough about it to be able to speak to it, to be able to manage it, and to be able to provide some success out of it.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Russ. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been terrific.